everyone. In this video I will explain new cluster policy which will help us to not let any service which comes to our Kubernetes cluster with the predefinition of the standards which we prepared inside of our company. So why we achieved on that? If you use Istio in front of each pod, in container, in microservice which you use inside of your environment, will inject sidecar container, and to understand which traffic comes inside of this pod in the service, the name of the definition must be start with the name of the protocol. With the, for example, HTTP minus or gRPC minus to TCP TLS, it doesn't matter. With minus, we must define it to be clear for envoy to understand which traffic comes to inside and to outside of our container. And to that, we have another way, of course, appProtocol key, which we can use inside of service too. But we decided to use the name of the services with the standards which we get from Istio official documentation. And do that, we start to think we must prepare cluster policy to not let any developer or any person to deploy any service inside of Kubernetes cluster without the standards which we defined. Actually, we prepared documentation of that. So just imagine we say inside of this cluster policy, if client service will come to our Kubernetes cluster, we will deny on the request object spec ports for the kind of the service. In admission control, of course, a controller, of course, will come request object spec ports. It's list of the ports for the client service. If any name, I will do iteration on the for each. I will get list block on the ports, multiple ports with the multiple names can define there because it's list. And do that, I will iterate it and say with the regex match function says if it will start with any of them, gRPC, HTTP, HTTP2 or any of them, and until to end with minus. If element name will not match to any of them, then it means we don't let any client service to be deployed inside of Kubernetes cluster. So the service name must be start with the gRPC or HTTP, HTTP2, which we defined here to be deployed in our Kubernetes cluster. So let me switch to manifests. We can see we have service with name gRPC port. It is a good configuration, and it is invalid configuration which starts with XYZ. So it means if I will do apply manifest invalid service, it cannot be deployed because our cluster policy don't let it. And in case of valid service, it will be created. So why we created this cluster policy? It works right now. In the next video, I will show you the port range limitation which we defined in our standards, which protocol, which port range can use. So that's it actually. I hope it will be useful.